Adventures of Ellen White and the Pioneers. Ellen gives her heart to Jesus.
When Ellen was 12 years old, a great sadness came into her heart. She felt like she could never be called a child of God, and she felt that she wasn't good enough to enter heaven. Ellen and her twin sister Elizabeth would go to bed at night, but Ellen could not sleep. She would lie awake wishing that she could feel closer to God. Many nights after Elizabeth was asleep, Ellen would slip quietly out of bed and kneel on the cold floor beside her bed for a long time, earnestly praying to God. It was with this sad feeling that Ellen went along to the Methodist camp meeting in Buxton, Maine, with her parents in the summer of 1840. She had a great longing to find the peace of God and real forgiveness for her sins. Soon after they were at the camp meeting, Ellen heard a sermon about how Queen Esther went bravely in to see King Ahasuerus after she had fasted and prayed to God to help her. She said, "So will I go unto the king, and if I perish, I perish." Queen Esther was brave enough to go in front of the king after she'd prayed, because she had faith to believe that he would receive her, and he did. This sermon made Ellen realize that she needed to have more faith, that Jesus loved her as she was, and that he would receive her, just as the king had received Queen Esther, and that Jesus would forgive her sins. When the minister invited all those who wanted a special prayer to come up to the front, Ellen went forward also. And while bowed with others who were seeking the Lord, Ellen's silent prayer was, "Please help me, Jesus. Save me, or I perish." And as she knelt and prayed, suddenly she felt as though the burden had left her, and her heart felt joyful and happy. And now she felt certain that Jesus understood her troubles and that he would help her. One day at the camp meeting, a woman stopped to talk to Ellen, and she asked Ellen, "Dear child, have you given your heart to Jesus?" And Ellen was just about to answer yes, when the woman exclaimed, "Oh, indeed you have. His peace is with you. I can see it in your face." I wonder if people can say that about our faces. Can they see the love of Jesus shining in our faces? Can you think of some stories in the Bible when the person's face shone with the glory of God? Acts 6 verse 8 says, "And Stephen, full of faith and power, did great wonders and miracles amongst the people. And all that sat in the council, looking steadfastly on him, saw his face as it had been the face of an angel." Another person whose face shone with the glory of God was Moses, when he came down from Mount Sinai after talking with God. 2 Corinthians 3 verse 7 says, "The children of Israel could not steadfastly behold the face of Moses, for the glory of his countenance." There were many boys and girls at the camp meeting, but in those days there were not any special tents or rooms just for children. The children sat all day with their parents and listened to the preacher. And one day, as Ellen sat in the meeting, she saw close to her a small girl about 6 years old sitting by her mother. The little girl was holding a pretty umbrella tightly in her arms. Several times she started to put it down, but then she'd hold it tightly to her heart again. Oh, how precious that umbrella was to her. She looked sad and thoughtful, as if she were going through some kind of struggle. In a previous meeting, the little girl had heard the minister say that we must give up all for Jesus. And now she sat thinking, must I give up my umbrella? I love Jesus. I love my umbrella. Can I give up my umbrella for Jesus?" And she looked at her umbrella, and suddenly she burst into tears, and she said right out loud, "Dear Jesus, I want to love you and go to heaven. Take away my sins. I give myself to thee, umbrella and all." And then she threw her arms around her mother, saying, "Oh, Mother, I'm so happy, for Jesus loves me, and I love him better than any other thing, even my umbrella." The little girl's face was shining with happiness as she smiled at all the people around her. Her mother was happy too, and then with tears in her eyes, the mother explained that her little daughter had received the umbrella as a gift, and she loved it very much. She carried it everywhere she went, whether it was raining or the sun was shining, and she even took it to bed with her at night. But here at the camp meeting, she had heard the story about how Jesus had given his very life on the cross so that we can go to heaven. What a struggle she had gone through before she was willing to give up her very best treasure, her umbrella, for Jesus. But now the struggle was over, and she was willing to sacrifice her pretty umbrella for Jesus. All the people in the tent were happy for the little girl because of her great victory. They knew it was just as hard for her to give up her pretty umbrella as it would be for them to give up their houses and land. The mother then explained to the little girl that now, because she was willing to give up her best treasure for Jesus, it was all right to keep her umbrella and to use it, as long as she did not love the umbrella more than she loved Jesus. The little girl had learned a very good lesson, the lesson which we must always obey, the first commandment, which says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." And she loved her pretty umbrella so much that she almost worshipped it like a little god. And this is not following the second commandment also, because it says that we should not worship idols. The umbrella wasn't really an idol, but almost anything can become like an idol if we love it too much and think about it all the time, as some people do. A shiny new car, a boat, or toys, money, or a mobile phone may become like an idol. Some girls almost worship beautiful clothes, and they are never satisfied with what they have. To them, clothes are like an idol. For some boys, it's often sports like soccer that they love so much that they can only think about that. If we love and think about these things more than we do Jesus, and we do not have time to study the Bible, then these things become like a god or an idol to us, just like the little girl's umbrella was to her. As Ellen sat there in the meeting, she thought to herself, how hard it is to give up even little treasures like an umbrella. Yet Jesus gave up heaven for our sake and became poor so that we might have heavenly riches. Now at last Ellen had found the real peace of God. She knew that her sins had been forgiven, and she was willing to give up all for Jesus, just as the little girl had been willing to give up her umbrella for Jesus. Now Ellen wanted to be baptized and become a real child of the King. Come and join us next time to hear about the special place where Ellen gets baptized.